Hey guys, here's an update on the seed planting that's been going on here indoors. I went ahead and started the seed planting maybe about 2 months ago with the cabbage, cauliflower, broccoli, and the snow peas next. After that, the snow peas and sugar peas where I started. And we're here in about almost mid-March, and I had already started the tomatoes, the Romas, the big boys, the tiny Tims, the cherry tomatoes. I started those probably a couple weeks back, and they're doing pretty good. As you can see, the seedlings are pretty large, and they've grown a couple inches at least on some of them, and so they're doing pretty good. And as you can see, I went ahead and did a number of different soil mediums. I did some in the peat pellets, and then I did some in just straight perlite, and then I did some in the rock wool perlite combination, and I even put some in aluminum cans and did it in that way. So that way as they grow, and then I want to kind of convert into using the hydroponic solution, I can just pour straight into the aluminum cans. And so I did that. I've kind of been staggering the growing sessions. So some of the different varieties of tomatoes, I think I'm growing about 6 different varieties of tomatoes this year. I've kind of did some succession growing and then kind of basically staggered the seedling planting. And so some of them, as you can see, are a lot further along. This one over here is the cabbage, which I need to get into its final resting homes. And these other plants are pepper plants, and so I started them early. And then just for fun, I went ahead and did some corn this year. I typically don't like to grow corn because it takes up a lot of space, and it's kind of a little bit more of a hassle. But I just decided that I wanted to grow at least some this year, so I did that. But mostly I like to stick to my favorites, which are the peppers and the tomatoes and the cucumbers and some of the other plants that I did the previous year. But this is a little bit of my seedlings and where they're at. I got a number of other seedlings in other locations that haven't sprouted yet. I probably have, this is probably makes up only about 20% of all the seedlings I have planted. I have a number of other seedlings in other locations that haven't sprouted yet. I have them kind of basically all over the house. And so that's where we're at with that. And let me give you a rundown of how these other plants are doing. Sorry for the noise. But I have my lettuce, and I'm successing growing my lettuce too, of course, because as my lettuce grows and I eat it, I'm going to want to, have available lettuce at different lengths along the way. So here is the cabbage, one of them. As you can tell from the center, that it's a little bit hard to tell, but you can tell that the head is starting to form. So I'm going to go ahead and start covering that very shortly, just because I don't want bugs to start eating the cabbage head itself. Once that starts, then it's really hard to stop. Plus, it's hard to reform, and so or it takes time to reform. And so I'm going to go ahead and get that covered very shortly. Make sure that bugs don't get to it. And here's another pepper plant that's done really well. I started this seedling really, really early in the house. You can tell from the stem, it's pretty thick. I started this one early just because I wanted to go ahead and at least have a couple early in the season. But I do still bring this plant indoors most of the time, just because it likes the warmth of the indoor temperature. But here's one of the lettuces that I was talking about. I'll go ahead and I grew them in the 5-gallon Home Depot bucket. I used a net liner or a paint strainer liner, and I drilled a hole partway up the middle. And I have already converted over to the hydroponic solution. And I did that probably about a week ago when the lettuce was at least about almost an inch tall. And I went ahead and started moving over from the just regular watering the lettuce to using hydroponic solution fertilizer, giving it some basically plant food. And what I'll do with this lettuce is it's starting to get very tall here already. And so what I'll do is as it grows, I'll just use the cut and grow method. I call it the cut and eat method. And so I'll do that where I'll cut it and eat the lettuce and let it grow again. I'll probably do that about 3 times. I noticed that after about the third time, the lettuce starts getting a little bit too bitter. And usually for the last eating session, I'll just use like light vinaigrette, or I'll use Italian dressing, because it seems to handle the bitterness a little bit. It's not super bitter, but it's slightly getting too bitter for most people. So I'll go ahead and switch to light vinaigrette or Italian dressing. But basically, I'll be able to get about 3 or 4 separate meals out of this lettuce. And then, as you can see, I went ahead and set up the snow peas and sugar peas in their final resting home in the hydroponic system. I went ahead and put all the sugar peas, snow peas, snap peas into their final resting home. I got maybe another 10 snow peas that need to get put in today. So later today, I'll go ahead and get them tree transplanted from their seedling stage in the individual cups into their final resting home. I got these coolers, I think at home. I'm sorry, I got these coolers over at Walmart for $1.97, and then I lined them in a plastic bag because, as we all know, styrofoam is still not leak proof. Overnight or even within a couple hours, styrofoam will still have water coming out of the edges and sides from the outside. For all the things they're able to invent and fix, one thing they just can't seem to do is make it so that way styrofoam does not leak. And so I lined them with 2 bags of garbage bag liner, and then I put the solution inside there. And as you can see, the root system is doing really well over there. They're really long. And I'm sure that sugar peas and snap peas will be forming here within the next 7 to 10 days. I get that feeling. And here is the cabbage that I planted about a week ago. I replanted a week ago. And these heads will start forming. I've got to kind of readjust this a little bit and get this thing to continue to stand straight up, but for the most part, it's doing pretty well. And as you can see, this one here, the head is trying to start forming down there. And so I'm going to need to go ahead and I'll go ahead and start wrapping this because I don't want bugs to get at it. But here, as I said before, these are the sugar peas and snap peas that need to be transplanted into their final resting home, which I'll do here very shortly. I'll give you an update here probably next week on some of the other items that I'm retransplanting, but for now, most of the other plants have been replanted into the final resting home here in these hydroponic solutions buckets. And we're still at least a couple weeks away from retransplanting any of the tomatoes or peppers. What we're basically looking at is here in mid-April, we're looking at temperatures about 65 to 75 during the daytime. And we're looking at probably temperatures in the evening running anywhere from high 39s to probably about maybe, I would say maybe mid 40s in the evening. For the most part, we're looking at high 30s, mid 45s in the evenings, which means that things like tomatoes, they like nighttime temperatures between 50 and 55. I've noticed that the varieties I grow like temperatures at least 55. So we're still a little bit ways out before they can go outside in their final resting home. I'm projecting probably 1 more month of the tomatoes staying indoors in the evening as the temperature warms up, and then when we're hitting consistently above 55 at night, then I will go ahead and retransplant them outdoors. But I figure we're at least another month out until then. So I'll be back maybe in about a week or two and give you an update on these seedlings, and give you an update on how the sugar peas and snow peas are doing. So I'll talk to you guys later.